I'm Eldon, the owner of a successful consulting firm. I have been married to my wife, Isabella, for 7 years, and we are an enviable couple from an outsider's perspective. From an outsider's point of view, we are an enviable couple. Isabella is an excellent and passionate employee of a well-known actors agency. I have a stable career and am financially independent. Our life seems perfect, but only I know that underneath the surface peace, there are some disturbing cracks. The nature of Isabella's work is such that she often accompanies actors on business trips and to various entertainment events. At first I didn't mind, but gradually I began to feel a slight uneasiness. Especially lately, she has been getting very close to a famous actor named Leonardo. Whenever she and Leonardo returned from a business trip, I could always detect a subtle change in her mannerisms. She would unconsciously mention Leonardo's name and talk about the fun they had in the field. Although she always emphasized that it was just work, my instincts told me there was more to it than that. One day, I stumbled across some photos on Isabella's computer, and a few of them caught my attention. In the photos, Isabella and Leonardo were very close to each other, with big smiles on their faces. It didn't look like an ordinary photo of co-workers, but rather revealed an air of intimacy. My heart clenched, and the seeds of doubt began to take root in my mind. I tried to convince myself that it was just a normal work interaction, but my inner turmoil grew stronger and stronger. I started checking Isabella's cell phone and computer more often, but I was ashamed of my behavior. I didn't want to be a suspicious husband, but I couldn't help it. Isabella was keenly aware of the change in me. She began to ask me if something was bothering me. It was difficult for me to say anything in front of her concerned eyes. There was a gap between us, where we used to talk about everything. But now there was an unbridgeable gap. I could sense that the appearance of our perfect marriage was crumbling. In order to relieve my anxiety, I started to work overtime more often, devoting most of my time and energy to my work. Meanwhile, Isabella and Leonardo were traveling together more and more because of their new movie project. As I watched Isabella packing her bags for her business trip, I had mixed feelings in my heart. Our communication is becoming less and less, even when we are together. We are often speechless, each with a heavy heart. I can feel that an invisible wall is gradually built between us. Once love seems to have passed, replaced by coldness, suspicion, and alienation. Finally, one day, I found the courage to voice my concerns to Isabella. She froze for a moment, then smiled bitterly and said, "Eldon, do you think there's something going on between Leonardo and me? Don't worry, we're just working partners, that's all." Her words sounded sincere and firm, but I felt like I had been stabbed in the heart. "But those photos, you guys look so close." I struggled to voice the doubts in my mind. Isabella sighed, took my hand and said, "Eldon, you have to believe me. It was all work, and my feelings for you have never changed." I nodded mechanically and tried to squeeze out a smile. But the trust that was once unbreakable was already cracked. I knew that the real test was yet to come. I loved Isabella dearly, but at the same time I was deeply worried about our future. I don't know if we will ever be able to trust each other and talk to each other again. I looked out the window and pondered, how far can this marriage go? Can we still find the original good? All sorts of questions hovered in my mind, lingering for a long time. I know that we have to face the reality and solve these problems. Otherwise, the hidden cracks will only get deeper and deeper until they can no longer be repaired. As night fell, I lay in bed tossing and turning, my heart filled with anxiety and confusion. Isabella had already gone to sleep, but I was awfully awake. My mind recalled the past 7 years. The sweetness and happiness that once existed seemed to be getting farther and farther away from us. I silently prayed in my heart, hoping that this is just a nightmare, hoping that tomorrow when I wake up, everything will be back to normal. However, deep down, I vaguely realized that this is just the beginning. The real test is still ahead. Whether we can cross this gap and regain the good old days, or let jealousy and betrayal completely destroy this marriage, all are unknown. I closed my eyes and prayed silently in the darkness, hoping that God would give us a chance to be honest with each other and rebuild trust. This night was destined to be a sleepless night, and I was alone in the darkness with my inner struggle and suffering, looking forward to the dawn, looking forward to a fresh start. Ever since I found those suspicious photos, I have been in a state of anxiety, and Isabella seemed to sense the change in me. She started traveling more frequently and spending more time with Leonardo. Whenever she came home, she would take the initiative to explain to me, emphasizing that it was just a working relationship. However, my intuition told me there was more to it than meets the eye. A month later, we were invited to an important social event. It was the opening reception of a film festival, and Isabella's company was responsible for organizing the event. As Isabella's husband, it was only natural for me to accompany her. I thought it was just an ordinary social occasion, but little did I know that this night would change the course of my life forever. That evening, Isabella wore a gorgeous black gown that was as elegant as the day was long. She moved around the venue with ease, chatting with people from all walks of life. I, on the other hand, stood in the corner like an outsider, quietly surveying everything around me. Suddenly, my eyes fell on a familiar figure, Leonardo, who looked drunk and was talking to a group of people about something. Out of curiosity, I slowly approached to hear what they were talking about. Just then, a shocked voice reached my ears. "Let me tell you, Isabella is not what she seems." There was a hint of amusement in Leonardo's voice. "We have more than a working relationship, if you know what I mean." The people around me burst into laughter, but my heart dropped to the freezing point in an instant. I felt my hands start to shake and my mind went blank. Leonardo continued his grandiose speech. "Her husband is a miserable man who doesn't even realize he's being kept in the dark. When I was with Isabella, she was a total wildcat." Before he could finish his sentence, I rushed forward and punched him hard in the face. Leonardo staggered a few steps and looked at me incredulously. I stared at him with red eyes, trembling, barely able to contain my anger. "What are you babbling about? How dare you defame my wife like that?" I hissed. Leonardo wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and laughed coldly. "Heh, what I said is the truth. If you don't believe me, you can ask your good wife." I walked quickly to Isabella, who was talking to a client, and took her hand and headed out the door. She didn't know what was going on and asked me what was going on. I didn't say a word. I just picked up my pace. When we arrived at the hotel terrace, I finally stopped and turned to her. "Do you want to explain what's going on between you and Leonardo?" I tried to restrain myself. Isabella blushed and said in a panic, "I don't understand what you're talking about. It's really just a working relationship between me and him." Liar. I couldn't contain my anger any longer. "He said that about you guys in front of all those people. That doesn't sound like a lie." Isabella was silent for a moment, sighed, and whispered, "Eldon, I don't want to hurt you, but I have to be honest with you. Leonardo and I are really more than just workmates." I felt a wave of vertigo, as if the whole world was spinning. I couldn't believe my ears. "What did you say? That you actually betrayed me?" My voice was shaking. Isabella choked back a sob. "I'm sorry, Eldon. I really didn't mean to hurt you. When I was with Leonardo, I felt a different kind of attraction. We both got so caught up in it that we forgot who we were. I know I made an irreparable mistake, and I'm really sorry." Tears blurred my eyes, and I felt a heartbreaking pain. Once the good times flashed in my mind like a lantern, but now, all this has become a cruel dream. Why? Why are you doing this to me? Is our marriage, our relationship, so worthless to you?" There was a deep sadness in my voice. Isabella cried, "No, Eldon. My feelings for you are real. Everything between us is real. I was just confused, blinded by vanity and lust. Please, give me a chance to make amends, and I swear I'll never do it again." I smiled bitterly and felt a sense of powerlessness. The trust and beauty I once had has been completely shattered. I don't know if we can go back to the old days. "I need to be alone," I said tiredly. "I can't face you right now, and I can't forgive you. I need time to think about our future." I left the terrace without looking back, leaving Isabella crying and begging behind me. I returned home, paralyzed on the sofa, and let the tears flow freely. I felt that my heart was dead, and that all the good things I had done were gone. For the next few days, I took a vacation and shut myself up at home, not wanting to see anyone. And when Isabella knocked on the door several times, I pretended I wasn't home, not wanting to face the harsh reality. I kept thinking back to the time when we met, fell in love, and got married. trying to find out what went wrong. But the more I thought back, the more my heart ached. I began to question my failure as a husband. Was it because I ignored her feelings too much that she went down the path of betrayal? Was it because I didn't give her enough love that she sought solace in others? Countless questions swirled in my mind, but I couldn't figure it out. Disappointment gradually ate away at my heart. I became cranky, irritable, and even began to drink to drown my sorrows. Whenever the night is quiet, I always take out those old photos, looking at our once happy, smiling faces, heart like a knife. It was only after half a month that I slowly came out of my haze. I realized that I cannot just sink down. No matter what the outcome, I have to face reality and make a choice. So I asked Isabella to meet me. We sat down in a quiet cafe, facing each other in silence. After a long time, I finally spoke. Isabella, I've been thinking a lot about this. We've been together for so many years. My feelings for you are real. However, your betrayal completely hurt me and made me lose faith in our relationship. Isabella's eyes were red and her voice choked. Eldon, give me a chance to make up for my mistakes. I swear, I'll treat you with all my heart and I'll never betray you again. I shook my head and laughed bitterly. Isabella, you know, the real betrayal is not physical cheating, but spiritual deception. You are hanging out with other men, but back home you still pretend to be a good wife and mother. This kind of deception is more painful to me than physical betrayal. Isabella choked back her tears. I took a deep breath and said slowly, I used to think that we could grow old together and go through life hand in hand. But now, I realize that there is an unbridgeable rift between us. I don't want to struggle like this anymore. Maybe we both need a new start. Isabella jerked her head up and looked at me incredulously. What do you mean? I want a divorce, I said calmly. This sentence I have been brewing for a long time. At this moment to say out, surprisingly easy. Isabella froze, unable to stop the flow of tears. After a long moment, she murmured, If that's what you want, I respect your choice. Maybe you're right. We both need a fresh start. We stared at each other in silence, unspoken. The sweetness and happiness of the past had already gone with the wind, never to return. Just then, Isabella's cell phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID and her face changed. I glanced at it, and it was Leonardo. Isabella panicked and tried to ring off the phone, but I stopped her. Take it, I said calmly. Since it's come to this, let him know the result too. Isabella hesitated, but picked up the phone. She spoke briefly and then hung up. I knew that she must have told him about our decision to divorce. I'm sorry, Eldon, Isabella whispered. I'll arrange the divorce as soon as I can. I won't intrude on your life anymore. Uh-huh. I nodded. An inexplicable bitterness rose in my heart. The 7-year marriage had come to an end. After saying goodbye to Isabella, I walked aimlessly through the streets alone. The once familiar streets now looked so strange. I looked up to the sky and let the cold wind blow my face. The past flashed in my mind, and all those good times had turned into a sharp blade that stabbed me hard in my heart. I don't know what will happen to me after losing Isabella, but I realized that I had to pull myself together to face the challenges ahead. This is a brand new start, although the road ahead is uncertain, but I believe that as long as you adhere to their own beliefs, one day will come out of the haze to find the meaning of life again. When I got home, I turned on my computer and started drafting divorce papers. Every word was so difficult, but I knew it was a step I had to take. Outside the window, the night was getting darker. I shut down the computer, lying on the bed tiredly. My mind kept replaying everything that had happened during this period of time, and my heart was full of mixed feelings. I know, from now on, my life will be completely changed. But I also believe that no matter how many difficulties and obstacles lie ahead, I will face them with strength because I still have hope in life. Perhaps happiness is far away from me, but I won't give up. I will use my own hands to create a new life. Even if I am bruised and battered, I will move forward with my head held high because I believe that the dawn will eventually come and the sunshine will eventually fill the road ahead. In this way, I gradually fell asleep in the endless thoughts. Outside the window, the city lights are still flickering, seemingly telling countless stories of sadness and joy. My story, however, has just turned a new page. Despite the devastation, I firmly believe that as long as there is hope, there is nothing that cannot be overcome. The decision to divorce had been made, but the reality of the situation was difficult. Isabella and I were emotionally broken, but we had lived together for 7 years, and there were too many interests to be cleared up. On the advice of a lawyer, we began the process of dividing the property. The process was far more complicated and painful than I had imagined. What we once built as a love nest has now become a bargaining chip. We had to argue over the ownership of every item. The tacit understanding we once had was gone, replaced by tit-for-tat and a lack of compromise. What made me feel even more powerless was the sudden involvement of Isabella's company in the divorce. They sent a team of corporate lawyers to try to smooth things over. It turned out that they were worried that I would publicize Isabella and Leonardo's affair after the divorce, which would affect the company's reputation. So, with lawyers mediating, a divorce negotiation turned into a game, and Isabella's company made a deal that was too good to refuse. They would give me a $5 million breakup fee if I agreed to keep it quiet after the divorce. Faced with this attractive offer, I was in a deep conflict. On the one hand, I didn't want to give up my dignity and become a slave of money. But on the other hand, the money could really make my life easier after the divorce. I didn't know what to choose. While I was hesitating, Isabella reached out to me. She was full of guilt and apologized again, begging for my forgiveness. She said she didn't want our marriage to end like this, and she wanted to give us a chance to start over. I looked at her coldly, my anger rekindled. Start over? Do you think we still have the possibility to start over? After you betrayed our relationship, after you made me the laughing stock of the whole circle, do you think I can still come back to you as if nothing happened? Isabella choked back tears and said, Eldon, I know I hurt you, and I'm really sorry, but I promise I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. Please give me another chance to prove to you that my love for you has never changed. I smiled bitterly and felt a sense of powerlessness. Once, I loved her so much that I was willing to give everything for her. But now, I can no longer find that love. Isabella, maybe you really want to make amends, but there are some mistakes that can't be made. You betrayed our relationship, and that's a gap that can't be crossed. Even if you try your best, we can't go back to what we had before. Isabella closed her eyes in despair, unable to stop the flow of tears. I knew that my words had hurt her badly, but I had no choice. Our marriage had come to an end, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I took a deep breath and said slowly, perhaps accepting the company's terms would be a new beginning for both of us. You can focus on your career, and I can start a new life. We should all look forward and stop obsessing about the past. Isabella froze, looking at me incredulously, as if she didn't recognize the person in front of her. After a long moment, she whispered, if that's what you want, then I respect your choice. Maybe you're right, we should all move on. And so, in the presence of my lawyer, I signed a confidentiality agreement and accepted a $5 million breakup fee from the company, while Isabella signed divorce papers and our 7-year marriage came to an end. On the day of the divorce, I arrived alone at our former home. Everything in the house was packed and waiting to be moved. I walked slowly through each room, remembering every bit of our past. On the wall of the bedroom, there was still our wedding photo. In the photo, we were smiling so brightly, as if the days ahead would be sunny. But the reality has given us a cruel blow. Love, in the end, is no match for desire and temptation. I gently took off the wedding photo, put it into the suitcase. Perhaps, one day in many years, I will open this box again, relive this heartfelt feelings. But for now, I'm going to seal it away, just like I sealed my broken heart. Walking out of the house, I took a deep breath. The sun shone on my face, making me feel a touch of warmth. I know that divorce is just a chapter in my life, and I still have a long way to go. Dragging the suitcase, I gradually walked away. Behind me, there is Isabella and I's former love nest, the witness of our 7 years of marriage. And in front of me, waiting for me, is an unknown future, is a brand new life journey. At that moment, I suddenly felt that I was so small and yet so free. Perhaps, life is like this, always have to go through all kinds of trials and tribulations in order to find the real self. And I can finally pursue my dreams and start a new chapter without any burden. The sun was shining on me, and I felt more relaxed than ever. Yes, love has left me, but life goes on. I want to use my own hands to create a new future. I want to tell myself, no matter how many difficulties and obstacles ahead, I have to be strong to face, because I still have hope for life. Thus, I took a firm step into the unknown future. In my heart, I was full of expectations for a new life. I know that as long as I face everything bravely, there is no difficulty that can't be overcome. Perhaps happiness will come again, but it will take me time to heal the wounds. At this moment, I suddenly feel that divorce may not be the end, but a new beginning. Yes, the end is also a new beginning, and I am ready to start again. 11. As the gloom of divorce gradually lifted, I began to try to readapt to living on my own. At first, facing an empty room by myself, a wave of bitterness and loneliness would inevitably rise in my heart. But I realized that I had to pick myself up and start a new chapter in my life. I went back to work and tried to paralyze myself with busyness. Gradually, I realized that I seemed to have found the rhythm of life again. Without the constraints of marriage, I was able to spend my time more freely and do the things I really wanted to do. I started to return to my former hobbies, and on weekends, I used to go golfing, fishing, and cycling with my friends. In the embrace of nature, I felt a great sense of peace and relaxation. All the troubles that used to bother me seemed to be no longer important. At the same time, I started to plan my future. With the breakup fee, I could pursue my dreams more comfortably. I decided to expand my company's business and explore new markets. To do so, I traveled a lot and went to different places to investigate business opportunities. In the process, I have made many new friends. They come from all walks of life, each with their own unique life experiences. The exchange with them has broadened my horizons. I began to look at my life from a new perspective. Gradually, I realized that I seemed to have gotten over my divorce. Although the pain still exists, I have learned to live with it. I realize that life has its ups and downs, and the key is to learn to get back up after a fall and move on. Just as my career was getting on track, an unexpected encounter made my life change again. It was a business trip to a strange city. By chance, I met a woman named Larissa. She was the owner of an art gallery, elegant and charming. We met at an art show and knew each other from the start. Larissa was funny and had a great sense of humor and conversation. I always felt a special chemistry with her. Gradually, we began to go out more often, from cafes to art galleries, from parks to theaters. With Larissa's companionship, I have rediscovered the joy of life. She is like a light that shines into my gray life and rekindles my desire for love. One day, we were strolling through the park when Larissa suddenly turned around and looked at me intently. "Eldon, I know you've been through a lot, but I want you to know that everyone deserves happiness. Don't let the pain of the past keep you from looking forward to the future." I looked at her in a daze, and a warm current welled up in my heart. Yes, why should I dwell on the pain of the past and not see the beauty in front of me? At that moment, I made up my mind. I was going to let go of the past and start over. I'm going to give myself a fresh start and go after true happiness. I took Larissa's hand and said softly, "Larissa, thank you for being in my life. I feel so blessed to have you by my side. I think I'm ready for a new beginning." Larissa smiled, her eyes sparkling with emotion. She kissed me softly and whispered in my ear, "Let's start a whole new future together." That's how Larissa and I started a whole new life together. We traveled together, explored new hobbies, and planned our future together. I have never felt happier or more fulfilled in her company. Gradually, I realized that I had really come out of the haze of the past, and the pain brought by Isabella's betrayal had slowly faded away. Instead, I have a boundless hope for the future and a full love of life. Now, Larissa and I have moved in together and started a real life together. Waking up to Larissa's sweet kisses every morning is my happiest moment. I know that I have rediscovered the meaning of life and found my true happiness. When I think back to the past, I suddenly feel that everything was worthwhile. Perhaps my marriage to Isabella was the reason I met Larissa, and it was Isabella's betrayal that gave me the opportunity to re-examine my life and find my true self. I'm not the same Eldon who was crushed by betrayal. I'm a new Eldon, an Eldon who's rediscovered himself and embraced happiness. I stood on the balcony and looked out the window. The warm sunshine on my face made me feel very solid and satisfied. I knew that no matter how twisted the road ahead was, I was ready to face it because I had found the most precious things in life: love and freedom. Larissa walked over to me and gently took my hand. We looked at each other and smiled, our eyes full of love for each other. I knew that this was the life I wanted. This was the future I was looking forward to. At that moment, I suddenly felt that life is so marvelous. When you think you have hit the bottom, fate will bring you a surprise. Every setback, every pain, is to make us grow and become stronger. Now I am no longer afraid of the unknown future because I realize that no matter what kind of challenges lie ahead, I am capable of facing and overcoming them. I held Larissa's hand tightly and my heart was filled with gratitude. I was thankful for every encounter in my life and for all the people who had made me grow. They made me who I am now, a new and better Eldon. The sun is shining on us, and we are welcoming a new day together. I know that this is the happiness I want. This is the life I aspire to. With Larissa by my side, I will continue to move forward to create a better tomorrow. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.